Case open. Your brain is deleting you right now. Not by accident, on purpose. And it's been doing it your whole life. Think about yesterday. You woke up. You lived a full day. Thousands of little moments, faces, words, sounds, feelings. Now try to actually replay it. You can't. Most of it is already gone. Vanish. And it's not just yesterday. The person you were 5 years ago. Feding. Your 10th birthday. Worry. Your first day of school. A couple of foggy frames, if that. Someone is quietly erasing your life, one memory at a time. And here's the twist that keeps me up at night. The culprit is you. Your own brain is holding the eraser. So today we're cracking one of the strangest cases in all of science. Who is deleting your memories? How did they choose what to destroy and what to keep? And why? Why on earth would your own mind be built to make you forget the very life you're living? Grab your magnifying glass. This one goes deep. Let's start where every good investigation starts, at the scene of the crime. And the scene, in this case, is your own head, right now. Here's a number that should genuinely shock you. Every single second, your senses are firing something like 11 million pieces of information at your brain. 11 million. Every color your eyes catch, every tiny sound, the feeling of your clothes on your skin, the temperature of the air, the weight of your own body in the chair. 11 million bits, every second. But here's the catch. How many of those can you actually pay attention to, consciously, at any given moment? Around 40, not 40,000. 40. Picture a mailroom. A truck backs up and dumps a million letters on the floor every second, and one worker inside is only allowed to open 40 of them. What happens to the rest? They get thrown out. They have to be. There's no room, no time, no choice. That is your brain, every waking second of your life. It is drowning in information, and the only way it survives is by throwing almost all of it away before you even notice it was there. So let's be clear about something right from the start of this case. Forgetting is not a glitch. Forgetting is not your brain failing. Forgetting is the main job. Your brain is a deleting machine that occasionally, almost reluctantly, decides to keep something. Which raises the real question of this investigation. How does it decide? Because if it's throwing out millions of things a second, the stuff you do keep must be chosen. So who's making the choice? Clue number 1. To understand how your brain deletes a memory, you first have to understand how it builds one. And it's nothing like you think. You probably imagine memories are stored like files on a computer. A folder somewhere labeled childhood, a file called that embarrassing thing I said in 2015. That's not how it works at all. A memory isn't a thing sitting in a drawer. A memory is a connection. Deep in your brain you have around 86 billion brain cells, neurons, and they talk to each other across tiny gaps called synapses. Think of each synapse as a little bridge between two cells. When you learn something new, and name a song the way home, your brain builds a bridge. Learn it again, use it again, and the bridge gets stronger, wider, easier to cross. That's what a memory physically is, a pattern of bridges, lit up together. But bridges are expensive. They cost energy to maintain. And your brain is ruthless about its budget. So it lives by one simple, brutal rule: use it or lose it. A bridge you cross every day. The way to your kitchen, your best friend's face, stays strong and gets reinforced. But a bridge you built once and never crossed again, your brain sends in the demolition crew. It tears that bridge down and recycles the materials to build bridges you actually use. Scientists have a name for this. They call it synaptic pruning, like a gardener cutting back the branches that aren't bearing fruits so the whole tree grows stronger. So that fact you crammed for a test and forgot a week later, you didn't fail to learn it. You learned it, built the bridge, and then never crossed it again, so your brain correctly decided it was dead weight and tore it down. Efficient, cold, but efficient. And here's where the case gets its first real twist, because a scientist over 100 years ago decided to measure exactly how fast this demolition happens, and what he found was almost cruel. Clue number 2 takes us back to the 1880s, to a man named Hermann Ebbinghaus. Ebbinghaus wanted to catch forgetting in the act, so he did something a little insane. He became his own lab rat. He made up thousands of nonsense syllables, meaningless little sounds with no meaning attached, and he memorized list after list of them. Then he tested himself, 20 minutes later, an hour later, a day later, a week later, to see exactly how much had leaked out of his head. And what he mapped is one of the most unsettling lines in all of psychology. They call it the forgetting curve. Here's what it shows. Within the first hour of learning something new, you've already lost a big chunk of it. Within a single day, more than half of it can be gone. You sit through a class, you read a whole chapter, you have a deep conversation, and by tomorrow most of it has quietly slipped through your fingers. And it doesn't fall off in a straight line. It plunges fast at first, then slows. The stuff that survives that first brutal drop tends to stick around longer. Now, when most people hear this, they feel a little hopeless. Your brain is a leaky bucket. What's the point? But this is exactly where a good detective looks closer, because Ebbinghaus found something else, and this part is the good news hidden inside the bad. He discovered that every time you relearn something, every time you cross the bridge again before it gets torn down, the forgetting slows down. The curve flattens. Learn it today, review it tomorrow, review it again in a few days, then a week later, and that memory stops being a fragile little foothat and becomes a highway your brain won't dare demolish. Scientists today call this spaced repetition, and it's the single most proven way to actually keep something in your head. So, the curve isn't a prison sentence. It's a set of instructions. Your brain is telling you, loud and clear, if this matters, come back for it. Cross the bridge again. Prove it's worth keeping. But that only explains the memories you choose to revisit. What about all the deleting that happens when you're not even trying? When you're not studying, not reviewing, not doing anything at all? What about when you're asleep? Follow me, because this is where the case takes its darkest turn. Clue number 3, and this one happens in the dark, literally. Because the heaviest deleting your brain does, it does while you sleep. Every night, when you close your eye and drift off, a night shift clocks in inside your skull. Here's what's actually going on up there. All day long, while you're thinking and learning and living, your brain cells are firing non-stop, and that activity leaves behind waste. Literal metabolic garbage that builds up between your neurons. During the day, there's no time to clean it. But at night, your brain does something remarkable. The space between your brain cells actually opens up, and a river of fluid washes through, flushing the garbage out, like a street cleaning crew that can only work after midnight when the roads are finally empty. Scientists call this the glymphatic system, and it's one of the reasons that a bad night's sleep leaves your head feeling like mud the next day. The trash never got taken out. But the night shift does something even more important than cleaning. It decides what to keep. While you sleep, your brain replays the day. It fires the memories back through again and again at high speed, and it sorts them. The important connections get strengthened and moved into long-term storage, filed away for good. And the weak, pointless ones? Sure, later. Swept out with the trash. Scientists have a beautiful idea for why this happens. They think that during the day your brain gets louder and louder. Every experience adds more connections, more noise, until the signal is buried. And sleep turns the volume back down. It weakens the connections across the board, so that only the strongest, most important ones survive the night. You wake up with a quieter, cleaner, sharper brain, because overnight it deleted the noise. So think about what that really means. That test you couldn't crack, the problem you slept on and somehow solved in the morning, that wasn't magic. That was the night shift, clearing the clutter so you could finally see. Forgetting, it turns out, is what makes room for thinking. But now we hit the biggest question in the whole case. If forgetting is this deleting machine running day and night, what would happen to someone whose machine broke? Someone who literally could not forget? Clue number 4, and this is the one that flips the entire case on its head. Because there are people, a tiny handful of them on Earth, who cannot forget. It sounds like a superpower, doesn't it? Perfect memory. Never lose a name. Never forget a birthday. Never blank on an exam. But listen to what it's actually like. Scientists studied a woman who could remember almost every single day of her life in stunning detail. Name a random date from decades ago and she could tell you what day of the week it was, what she did, what the weather was like, what was on the news. Her memory was nearly flawless, and she described it not as a gift, but as a burden. Non-stop. Exhausting. She said it was like watching her entire life play on a screen that never, ever turned off. Every old argument, every embarrassment, every grief, all of it just as sharp and painful as the day it happened, forever, unable to fade. Most of us are lucky. Time softens our worst memories. The edges blur, the sting dulls, the pain turns from a scream into a whisper. That softening, that mercy, is forgetting doing its quiet work. But for people who can't forget, nothing ever softens. They are trapped with every version of themselves at once, carrying the full weight of every day they've ever lived. And here's the gut punch of this whole investigation. Forgetting isn't the villain of the story. Forgetting is the hero. Imagine you actually kept all 11 million bits, every second, forever, every face and every crowd you ever walked through, every phone number, every boring Tuesday, every ceiling you ever stared at. You wouldn't be a genius. You'd be paralyzed. You couldn't find a single important memory in that ocean of noise. Your brain deletes so that you can function. It forgets so that you can move on. That person you used to be, the pain you used to carry, your brain lets it fade on purpose, so you're free to become someone new. So the suspect we've been chasing this whole time, the one erasing your life. It was never trying to hurt you. It was protecting you. But that still leaves one last mystery. If your brain is deleting almost everything, what makes the lucky few memories survive? Why do you remember some random moments crystal clear and forget entire years? There's a pattern, and it's waiting for us at the reveal. Before the reveal, one more clue, and it's the key that unlocks everything. Think about your own sharpest memories right now. I'll bet they're not random. Your first kiss, a moment of real fear, the day you got the worst news of your life, or the best. A first day, a last goodbye. Notice what they all have in common. They're soaked in emotion. And that's not a coincidence. Deep in your brain sits a little almond-shaped alarm bell called the amygdala. Its job is to detect when something really matters. Danger, love, shock, joy. And the instant it fires, it slaps a giant tag on that memory that says, this one. Save this one. Whatever you do, do not delete this. When you feel something intensely, your body floods with stress hormones, and those hormones act like glue. They burn the memory in deeper, harder, more permanent than any ordinary moment. That's why you can forget an entire ordinary week, but remember, in perfect detail, the 10 seconds when everything changed. Your brain isn't keeping the important stuff by accident. It's keeping what moved you. It uses your own emotions as the filter for what's worth saving, which is a strangely beautiful thought. The memories that make up you, the ones that survive the great deletion, are the ones you cared about the most. But here's the final twist, and it's the biggest one of the whole case. Because even those precious, emotional, burned-in memories, the ones you'd swear you remember perfectly, are lying to you. Here's the reveal. You think your memories are recordings. Play the tape, watch it back, exactly as it happened. They are not. Every single time you remember something, your brain does not press play. It rebuilds the memory from scratch, and while it's open, while it's being rebuilt, it changes. Scientists discovered something wild. The act of remembering makes a memory temporarily soft, editable, like wet clay. And before your brain files it away again, it tweaks it. A detail shifts. A color changes. Something you heard later sneaks in. Then it saves the new version over the old one, which means the memory you're most sure of, the one you've replayed 1,000 times, is actually the one that's been rewritten the most. Every time you told the story, you changed it a little. Your favorite childhood memory isn't a photograph from back then. It's a copy of a copy of a copy, edited 100 times by every version of you that ever remembered it. You are not playing back your past. You are rewriting it every single time you visit it. Now, you could hear that and feel robbed. Nothing is real. My memories are fiction. But look closer, detective, because this is the most human thing your brain does. If your memories were locked, permanent recordings, you would be a prisoner of your past, frozen forever as the person you were on your worst day. Instead, your brain lets the past stay soft. It lets you revisit an old pain with new eyes and feel it differently. It lets you forgive. It lets you grow. It lets old wounds heal, because the memory itself can change as you change. You are not a hard drive playing back fixed files. You are a story, a living story that you are telling and retelling and gently rewriting your entire life. And forgetting is the editor that keeps that story worth reading. Oh, and before we close this case, there's one loose end I can't leave alone. The biggest deletion of your entire life already happened, and you don't even remember it. Try to recall your first birthday, your first steps, learning to walk, learning your very first words. You can't, and neither can almost anyone. Nearly everything before the age of about 3 or 4 is simply gone, a black hole at the start of your life. Scientists call it infantile amnesia, and here's the eerie reason for it. When you're a baby, your brain is growing so fast, building so many new cells and bridges at such incredible speed that it can't hold memories in place. The ground is shifting too quickly for anything to stay put. The most important, most explosive learning of your whole life, becoming a person, was so intense that your brain couldn't keep the receipts. And there's a modern twist too. These days, we've found a new place to dump our memories, our phones. Studies show that when we know we can look something up, our brain quietly decides not to bother storing it. Why remember the fact when you can remember where to find it? We don't memorize phone numbers anymore. We barely remember directions. We've started using the whole internet as an external hard drive, and our brains, being the efficient deleting machines they are, happily let those memories go. Which leaves you with a question worth sitting with. In a world that remembers everything for you, what will you choose to keep in here? So let's close the case. Here's everything we found. 1. Your brain is flooded with 11 million bits every second, and it survives by deleting almost all of it. Forgetting isn't the failure, it's the whole system. 2. Memories are physical bridges between your brain cells, and the rule is use it or lose it. Cross the bridge again, or watch it get torn down. 3. The heaviest deleting happens at night when your brain runs a cleanup crew, flushes out the trash, and keeps only what matters. 4. The people who can't forget have shown us that forgetting is a mercy. It softens our pain and clears the noise so we can actually live. 5. Your brain keeps what moves you emotionally, and then rewrites even those memories every single time you remember them. You were never losing yourself. You are being edited, trimmed down to what counts, and set free to change. So the next time you forget where you put your keys, or a name slips off the tip of your tongue, don't be angry at your brain. It isn't broken. It's doing the hardest, most thankless job there is, deciding every second of every day which pieces of you are worth keeping. It's protecting the version of you that gets to walk into tomorrow. Case closed. And if you want the next mystery hiding inside your own mind, you know what to do. Subscribe, and I'll see you on the next case.